Hey, we're back with core programs, center of our relationship experiences. And I'm excited to go into part two. We've been talking about the garage of the mind or the storage place for all your memories. We record through our five senses. So even when a child is in its mother's womb, we are recording everything. Your subconscious records it. When you walk into a room and you think, I didn't really look at everything. Anything you saw with your eye was recorded. Anything you heard in that room was recorded. Even if you cognitively or in the frontal lobe cannot remember, you can't pull up that in a reasoning way. Like, I knew the color of the carpet. I knew all this. No, if they could tap your subconscious, everything's in there. Even when you have an operation and they put you out, guess what? Your subconscious records everything, and it's doing it through the five senses. So I want to give you a little example of that. If you had an operation where you were cut into, you had a broken bone, something very traumatic, but you were put out. You had meds to take the pain, and you were put out, uh, and you think, well, I don't remember any of that. But yet, when you go to the doctor to have a checkup to see how everything's healing, sometimes people in the doctor's office, they pass out entering the hospital or being in the doctor's office. They'll start breaking out in a sweat or what, because the subconscious remembers the cuts. It remembers the broken bone. It remembers this is the place that happened to me. Isn't that wild? I thought I'd share that just as an extra little something, something for you to be able to think about. Um, so we know in Psalms 34:18, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and he saves the crushed in spirit. Many times our memories have crushed us. The things that have happened to us, they were a crushing. They were things that felt like I don't even know how I'm going to live through this. It took me out, and yet they're stored. You can't just throw them up and they're out. It's one of those things where the brain records everything. You're even recording right now as you're listening to me. You're recording me. And you're recording whether you're comfortable in your chair, the color of the room, whether or not you're warm enough, what sounds are going on. There's a lot of recording that takes place. And when that happens, that's great if everything's wonderful and you feel safe. But anything that records that made you feel unsafe, that took your power of decision away, it was forced on you, or any of those, it causes a trauma in the heart and in the soul and in the brain. The actual physical brain sets up barriers of like, whoa, that was way too much information. I just recorded something and I recorded it really loud. And so what's going to happen is my eyes recorded it really loud. It was so intense. Every little sound was recorded really loud. The things that touched me were recorded really loud. And when we have a trauma event, that's how we remember it. So what happens is if somebody brings up a memory of the now, through the now, they have something that they did that tapped the memory of your past, just touched it. That's where the word triggered comes from. And however loud you recorded that area, suddenly you're recording everything in the now in a loud way. You're hearing people talk stronger to you than they're talking. I've had people when I'm talking at a tone of voice like this in a session and they get triggered, all of a sudden they're saying, You're just so loud. Why did you have to say it that way? It's so much. It's making me feel smothered or whatever it is, because the way their past was recorded was loud. And the peace of God that passes all understanding, that keeps our heart and our mind in Christ Jesus, that kind of peace means you feel like nothing's lacking, nothing's broken, nothing's left wanting. The word peace actually means shalom, or shalom means peace. And if we record things peacefully, then when you recall them peacefully. If you record things and it's not a peaceful way, it's going to cause it to be, there's going to be an unrest. And if you recorded it in a loud way, like a person who's been molested or something like that, smells many times are huge. It's like it's recorded in that certain smell, the room, or, whether they're at grandma's house or whose house they were at when it happened. the smell of it will be, if they get anywhere near that particular smell, they'll feel triggered. They might have a panic attack and not even be able to recall the memory. So it will come up in those areas of recording. Now, remember I said we have a faith brain? A faith brain is the brain that says, but I have permission to move on from this. I have the information to know how to move on to this. And someone's gave me the permission and the safety. So we have to feel safe in order to move on from something. And to tell somebody who's reliving trauma, just get it together, build a bridge and get over it. No, this has been going on for years. When are you ever going to get over it? And you shouldn't feel that way. Those are all things that jack over the brain. I'm just going to, that is not a psychological term of professionalism, but that's how I say it. It's just going to jack over the brain, and the brain itself will not be able to function. It'll cause the little spinny thing on the computer of your brain, everything to just lock up, and you won't be able to think. And then you'll start thinking this thought that goes with everything when this happens: I must be crazy. You're not crazy. What you're going through or what you went through, you went through. What you feel, those feelings are real to you, whether they have a truth base to them or not. You're feeling them and they feel real to you. So never let anybody tell you you shouldn't feel that way, because it's actually too late. When you feel it, you're already feeling it. And so what it does to the brain is it tells the brain, I'm also wrong. I had this abusive thing happen, and I'm also wrong for even having feelings. And, to redirect your feelings, to work through something, to tone down your feelings and stuff. Yeah, we can learn how to do that. We can learn to come up in that. But if you want to send somebody into a spiral, just tell them you shouldn't feel that way. So, the garage of the mind is what we've been talking about, and I'm just using a garage as like a storage bin of everything that was given to you from your grandparents, the family line, the way that you grew up, the memories you created, the memories people created for you. All of those things are in there. And good memories just line up right in the file of how the brain works. They'll just line up so nice and perfectly. You can always grab those memories, you know where they are. But something that's a trauma or a sin against you, or you participated in something that sinned against yourself or others, and there's no closure to it, it literally would be like a filing system that shows the files, and then suddenly there's a blocker. And that's that thing where the brain shuts it down and goes, whoa, that thing that happened to me, I didn't have the information to deal with. I didn't feel safe, nor did anybody give me permission to move on. So I'm stuck. Or some things happened where we were children, and we definitely didn't have the information or the know-how. I mean, we don't know how to process some of these things. And a lot of times people will say of children, well, they're so resilient. I mean, I know they just went through hell, but they're playing on the playground and everything. That's how children disassociate. That's how they deal. They just keep moving. And after a while, they have trouble sleeping and all those things because they feel like they're in survival mode and they just need to keep moving. And so it might look pretty, but it might not be pretty because the heart has been damaged. And these are the things then, all those things where there's a blocker, those are the things that are put into the boxes and shoved into the garage of your mind and wait for later. Well, we're probably going to need that. I'll have to deal with that eventually, but we're going to wait till later. And you just start stuffing. Everything's stuffing. And what's interesting is when people's lives close out around us, we have to readjust ourselves. Like when grandma passes away, we readjust ourselves how we do Thanksgiving. We readjust ourselves when someone goes to war, or there's things like that happen. And then many times the load of what they had gets passed on too. And sometimes we're storing their stuff in our garage. We're storing how we were supposed to solve everybody else's problems in our garage. And there's really no room for that because we have enough hoarding going on ourselves. So it's very difficult to minister to people if you got a garage in your mind that's full. It's full of the things you should have dealt with, and it's full of everybody else's stuff. I as a counselor and a mentor and a drug rehab specialist and a pastor, I'm talking to people all the time. In fact, I got the gift of gab, so I do that. And I try to really listen. But as I'm really listening, I realize sometimes people are carrying a load on their mind and in the garage of their mind that isn't even theirs. So, like when a loved one passes away and the family splits up everything, and grandma's 90 years old. So, as she's had stuff for years, grandpa had his stuff there. Now it's finally time to deal with this. And everybody picks out what they want or it gets divided different ways. Well, you have to bring that back to your house. And if you don't know how to process the things that you inherited, it's difficult. Sometimes we'll feel so loyal to a thing, we'll pile our house full of things. I know a man that his thing was when his parents died. They always collected these plastic cups, and I'm telling you, his house was full of plastic cups. The big gulp kind, and they were everywhere, every kind of style, everything. Well, it's cool to have a collection, but I mean, it took over. But part of that was because he inherited his parents' plastic cups. And so he's trying to keep his house clean, but the plastic cups were taking up so much space. They were over the top of the cupboards. They were all piled in the cupboard. And so then he wouldn't put his regular dishes in the cupboard because he was storing something that he felt so loyal to, something that was a way of holding on to the past and holding on to his parents. um, and you can create other ways to do that, but we'll pick something and we'll hoard that. It's the same thing with memories. We'll take on what we heard them say and their injustices and their areas where they're hurting and their times that, they got ran over or their times where they really were mean. And we take all that on and we say, that's the person I loved. And so I have to carry them too. There's only room in the garage of your mind for you. Just informing you of that. It's your area where you process your thoughts. Love other people, include them in your life in a way that they're your memories of how you feel about them, but you're not responsible for their emotional state. You're not responsible to be the savior of their world. You're not responsible to make sure they're never forgotten and all of these different things because it will start a hoarding in your brain. There's ways we can remember people that are so special, and but it's not in a way of hoarding every thought. So we talked about how it's like you open the garage door and you look in the garage and you're like, oh no, 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 I'm not cleaning this today. That is way too much information. I am not participating. We're just not doing this. And you close the garage door, but you're always, you're driving around, you invite people over to your house and your car's parked outside because you can't use your garage for what it needs to be. Many times we'll stop inviting people or doing different things because we're afraid they're going to notice how much hoarding's gone on. It's the same with the brain. We're constantly fearing people because we're afraid they're going to know what we think, with the things that we haven't dealt with, the things that make us who we really are. And we start being scared of people and scared of being real. So then we have to take on a persona or an avatar to make sure that, people think of us a certain way. And that's now a heavy load. We're not unpacking the boxes. It's starting to filter into our house. We can't reach out to people because we don't want them to know what's in those boxes. We don't even really know what's in those boxes, but we know there's something wrong. And we start building relationships like that, where we either don't have relationships or we build the wrong ones. We build the wrong ones. We'll build them with people who are comfortable with their whole head being hoarded and the way of thought being hoarded. We'll build them with that. They'll be like like, oh, we think alike. We actually don't deal with our thought patterns and things that have happened to us. Oh, you don't deal with things either. Okay, we're a great couple, and we'll get together on the level of our immaturity and the level of our pain. I'm saying that it's God's intention to renew the mind. He wants to do a house cleaning. And the only way you can do that is not rip out all those thoughts because then you wouldn't be who you are. They're a part of your being. The only way you can do it is change the perspective of those thoughts. If something happened, it actually happened, and you can't say that it didn't happen. But you can change how you view that. You can change how you look at that. So let's go into the garage, shall we? We'll open the garage door and we're brave. One day we just get like all energetic, like I am gonna heal my brain and we're gonna get into this. I'm tired of dealing with all the things that have gone on in my life. So we're just gonna enter the garage door and it's just instantly overwhelming. We might stand there and cry. We might drink a lot of coffee trying to deal with it. I mean, whatever way, if you're actually cleaning your garage like this, it's like it's gonna, we got to get into it. They might be feeling at that point, man, I really wish I had help, but I can't ask anyone to help me because what's in these boxes could possibly be embarrassing, shameful stuff I shouldn't have held on to, all that. I really don't want them to be digging around in my stuff, right? So it's hard if you go to counseling and you really don't want people digging around in your stuff. It's best if you're willing to open the boxes and I don't have to go in and dig in the boxes, right? Where you're sitting there and I'm trying to figure you out and what could have happened. And you're just barely giving me enough, you know, and expecting help to come forward. It's best if you bring a box of memories or things that are in your head out of your garage of your mind and bring it to the counseling and say, this is what I have. I don't know what to do with this box. Not all the boxes in garage. I mean, if it takes 300 boxes to fill your garage, you're not going to go in there, open everything, go through everything, and think that you're going to deal with that. God may give you one box he points out, or he may give you two boxes he points out, and in a good day, he might give you 4 or 5. I mean, you're really in a good frame of mind. He also, have you noticed it's hard to deal with painful things on a day where you know you should deal with it, but you just ain't got it. Sometimes you got to call a spade and just be like, I ain't got it today. But don't leave it sit there. Be like, I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to take some time to pray. I'm going to go for a walk or whatever. And then we will deal with a box from the garage, the thing that came forward first. Some things are deep seated and buried. Some things are way back in the back of the garage. And that might be the thing you need today. So sometimes people, what they'll do is it's like in cleaning a house. You go through everything and you're like, that is it. We're going to change everything in this house and just rip the whole cupboards apart and pull all the seasonings, everything, because we're going to be amazing. Wash them all down, wash the cupboards and put it in there all organized. That's what we're going to do. I'm so excited about doing this. And you have a certain amount of anger with it because you're so tired of it just being messed up. And so you pull out everything, but when you start to sort it, the brain is already tired from all the things that you had to deal with. And many times people will say, I only made it through a fourth of it and all that stuff is still sitting on my counter. So you opened the can, you opened the door, you opened it enough and they took out everything. And now you're expecting that when you take it all out, you're going to have the energy to put it all back in. No, I want to say this. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If you were out hunting an elephant, you got to figure out where the elephant is. And now you're going to cook it up and eat it. You ain't going to do that whole thing. It's going to be one bite at a time over a period of time. And so things that are big, you got to deal with them one bite at a time. And once you get the one bite at a time going, sometimes a whole big chunk, you'll have a day where you're really going to eat a piece of this elephant and it's going to be, man, I can't believe I ate that much. And then other days where it's just, no, not that hungry. It's going to be where you eat the elephant one bite at a time, but they're smaller bites. So you have to give yourself safety and permission to be, if I get into this, there could be some crying. There could be some messy stuff. I might get emotional and I still have to go to work tomorrow. So you pick the time and the place to where you're going to start getting into that box. So you dig into, here's the box that came forward. You close the garage door and you open it up. There might be memories from your grandpa's farm. There might be something in there that you kept that you hurt someone with. There might be something in there where somebody hurt you. And there's the first things that come up. And it's like, why did I even store this? And then they all sometimes, those memories are connected but then on the other hand, they might not be connected at all. They're just all in the same box. And so the brain, when it's hoarded, loses the ability to sort. And that's where people come in counseling, where they're like, do you think I should get rid of this? Do you think I should hold on to this? How do I refurbish this? What do I do? I mean, I kept this so I could fix it. It's a part of me. Um, and here's a memory from my grandpa's farm that I want to keep, but there was this icky thing that happened. And so how do I refurbish it? How do I reframe the picture that I have in this box so that I see it differently? So I can still hold on to it, but I see it a different way. Then there is things that you look at, you open the box, you're like, oh, why did I keep this? I'm just getting rid of it. You just throw it. And it feels really freeing to like, I finally got that gone. But so many times people will take the box, they'll open it up, they'll look at all the things. And the same way they came to the conclusion, just close the garage door. They think about what they should do with the 10 things that are in the box and they just don't know. And where do I put it and how do I sort it? And then finally they'll just close the box and like, well, this one I'll deal with later. Well, if you do that with 3, 4 boxes in a row, you're really not making any movement in the garage. The idea is to park one car in there. Like we're gonna clean out the side of the garage. And once you start that, you start a thing where it's like you start to know where everything is. I have a son who works a lot in his garage and he has places for things. He's constantly moving it, but at the same time, he's got a whole cupboard system where there's a place for this and a place for that. And he knows where things are because there's a certain amount of organization, and that's what has to happen to the brain. If you're storing things and nothing's organized, it's all jumbled, then you're going to have high anxiety. Then there's no faith to move you forward because you don't have faith thoughts. They're all mixed into all this trauma. And so it takes a little bit to sort that out. It's really incredible to me that, well, it's credible. I know we always say incredible, which kind of means it's not credible. But it's amazing to me how that when I get in worship, it helps sort me out. When I'm in church and I'm just in that worship time and I hear the word, it gives me something solid to sort with. When I'm in the secret place and I'm praying to God, He gives me something solid. He gives me the energy to go take on another box, another memory thing, another thing where it's like, now this is sorting out. Now I know who I am. I didn't even know why I had all this stuff. And I know my real story. So everybody has a story, and everybody's story has the right to be heard. Many times we haven't, if we're hoarding, we haven't heard our own story because we've denied and disassociated from the pain of it so often, we couldn't even tell our story if we wanted to. So what I do, I call it mapping. I help people to map their life, right? Even if you have somebody write out their testimony, sometimes they'll come back to me and they'll say, I had a really hard time writing out my testimony. I realized after I read it and I slept on it overnight, I read it again in the morning. So much is missing. So much. There's things in there that I don't even know if they're accurate. I don't even know what to feel about that. I don't know where to start my testimony. Um, and you can tell when that same person a couple years later is about to share their testimony, their story is more solid and it's filed in a way where they're recalling things and they're relaxed about it and they feel safe and they have permission to talk about it. They can get into certain details, but it makes sense. When I first tried to write out or say my testimony, when I first gave my life to Christ in 1981, I was 17 years old, just full of trauma and things I didn't have the information to get over on. And I think that's probably the most traumatic thing. We're all going to go through something. But the thing that traumatizes us the most is we don't have the information in that moment to say, this is what I'm going to do. Because remember, we have a faith brain. This is what I'm going to do is what faith wants to do. So it gridlocks the brain and it starts messing with you every which way. But you can have gone through extreme trauma. But if somebody says, this is what we should do, whoo, You're like, all right, at least I know what to focus on. And so that is uh, something that I learned. And when I'd get in worship, it would bring me to a grounding point that would say, God's got me. I can go through these boxes. I can stop hoarding my thoughts. He has me. I'm not going to die over these thoughts. I might cry over these thoughts, but I'm not going to die over these thoughts. I'm not going to fear these thoughts. These are things that happened in the past. It is not the now. It's not happening to me right now, these memories. Now, you might have similar things going on right now, but those past memories, you have to give them a reality check. Year from yesteryear, I'm in the now. And now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. Now faith, the now thing that's happening with you, you can choose faith in your brain and in your heart right now. We can choose it and go, now I'm going to do this. If you feel safe and you have permission, you will move on. So you're going to move on. You just need to know how this works. And so if you're looking at it like you took a box out and it feels overwhelming, it might be. You might cry. You might have underlying feelings, and those feelings cause anger, because anger is a secondary emotion. So if your first emotion is fear, or I'm feeling rejected again, or whatever, because I looked at this, you have to be able to tell yourself and give yourself a reality check, or check in with somebody you can trust who can give you a reality check. Tears don't mean you're dying. You're just reliving feelings. That's not going to kill you. Go ahead and cry. It's okay. And you take that before the Lord, and it's like you got permission. I got permission to move on, and I'm going to cry about this because I never actually grieved some of these things. Now, grief isn't where we'll go around. We'll have courses on grief in the future here, but you go around and you're like, I'm grieving, and I'm assigned to grieve the rest of my life. No, it's okay for you to have the feelings of grief. And then as you allow those tears to flow, as you allow God to comfort you and other people to comfort you, and you to comfort yourself with what's real in the now, suddenly you'll start to get up from that place and say, I guess I'm moving on. I guess I'm giving that memory, we'll go ahead and file that as closed out. I guess I'm going to look at that memory different. I guess I'm going to trash that memory. I guess I'm going to, there's so many things that, we do with the one memory. We find out what's the lie about that memory and speak truth to it. We find out what the fear is connected to that memory and speak truth to it. So reality checks are what God gives us through His Word. Many times I'll be sitting in church and I'll just get a knowing from God that it's like, oh, that's what that's about, and that's why that happened. Oh, so refreshing. You think, well, but that's not the full answer. Yeah, but it moves me along in my faith. And eventually I just emancipate from that problem. Even what the word says in 1 Corinthians, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. The word liberty means emancipation from bondage. So when God is moving, whether it's in your prayer time, whether someone's praying for you, whether you're in a church service that's just so anointed, whether you're having a one-on-one with God or whatever, the anointing emancipates you from bondage. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And the word liberty, emancipation from bondage. Emancipation just means I'm about to graduate out of this. I've been in this box for a bit here, and God is moving me along to more truth regarding it. And I know what's the lie now. I know what I need to own and what other people should own and who I should forgive and what should be forgiven. And I'm just going to unpack this and put it away. We're not going to be dealing with this over and over because we took care of the business around it. That's you graduating out of the problem. I'm so visual. I picture things that when I finally have closure on something, you know how when you graduate high school, you take your tassel and then you turn it from one side to the next on your hat. That's what I feel like. There might be memories that I might still cry about regarding that same subject, but it's not telling me I can't get up and go somewhere. It's just telling me, yeah, I remember that. That did hurt, you know. It was a mess and we didn't handle that right, or they didn't handle that right. but forgiveness is there. And I'm only going to think about it for a little bit, and then we're just going to graduate out. That's what we're going to do. And then I move on. Move on is a hard thing to do if you don't do these first things. That's why when somebody tells you to build a bridge and get over it, you're ready maybe to punch them in the face. You're ready to you cry harder. It does you no good because it puts a demand on you that you don't have the math equation to figure out. They're just telling you, give me the answer. You need to have the answer. Well, what's the equation? I don't know. How do I put it together? I don't know. If 2 plus 2 equals 4, that gives your subconscious such peace because it's a sure thing. It's something faith is sure, and your brain goes, yeah, I can count on that. But when you don't know how to process the things, but you're supposed to have an answer, that pressure can make you have a nervous breakdown. People putting the pressure, we have to sort these things out the way that we're made. God made us a certain way, and He gave us a faith brain, and He wants us to learn how to approach that one sequence at a time, and one answer at a time, one closure at a time, one faith statement at a time, one area of just moving ahead. Um, I'm hoping that this is really helping you because I know it helped me. And, I'm still working on the project of my soul. I'm still working on the project of how my mind functions. We all are going to do that. That's called sanctification. And I like how the Bible says sanctification comes through the word. The correction of the dysfunctional things comes through the word of God. Why do you think that is? It's not because of religion. Religion can't help you. Putting a label on something is not going to help you. Absolute truth dispels all lies. God is love, and love is truth. So you mix that together, and you got a good formula to be able to dispel any lies, because the lies are the things that are hurting you right now. Those are the things packed in the garage of your mind. And we can't fear those. We got to pull them out and say, you know what? That actually is a bad memory, but there's a lot of lies attached to it. And so I'm going to forgive the people who hurt me, and I'm going to forgive myself. God, forgive me. And sometimes we're even mad at God, and I forgive you, God, for, or ask forgiveness for being mad at you, is a way to say it. And so there's a lot of forgiveness that goes on. But then when you look at those things, you have to have truth to dispel the lie. You can't have a sort of truth. Like, I sort of think this is kind of the answer, maybe. You're going to tell it, maybe. It's not going to listen. Your brain is not going to line up because 2 plus 2 has to equal 4. The equation has to be right first. Then you can get the equal. And when that part says 4, that's when the closure comes. Like, that's it. That's truth. Oh, that's truth. That's so wonderful. And as that is truth, then we find peace in the truth. Even if the truth is something we don't like, you still go, yeah, that's the truth. And I have to face that. It pulls you into that faith area where you say, I'm still moving ahead. Even though the truth hurts sometimes, we hate to face the truth. But if you face the lie and you only have a lie to come against it, it's not going to move. If you have a misbelief that's going to come against it, lies don't leave. They have to have absolute truth. Sanctification is absolute truth, changing us. The renewing of the mind is reframing everything and how we view it to come under the conformity of Christ and come under His way of thinking, which is love. Which is love. You have a purpose, you are loved, and God wants you whole. So I say that to you now, and I'm looking right at you. I'm looking right at you. I want you to hear this and maybe play this over and over. You're not crazy. The sequences in your mind, the math problems are kind of messed up. Maybe nobody showed you how to run that math problem. Maybe the trauma messed up your math works. Maybe you've had a false answer and you knew it was false the whole time, and now you don't trust the equation. But either way, God's about to deliver you from all of that, one box at a time. How are you going to eat this elephant? One bite at a time.